Do you, or what are the 4 priority locations? Like, do you have them listed out? It's just hard to tell by the map.
Yeah, so so that's West Route 66, Milton Road, 180 running up Humphreys and out onto Fort Valley for a while, and then pretty much all of East Route 66.
Okay, I thought they were like specific like intersections or specific areas, but
because it's a combination of those 3 analyses. There's intersections, segments, and then those high risk areas based on the kind of the geometry and volume. And so these segments will include those intersections that were listed on the previous slides. So I can share those with you after the meeting if you're interested. We'll get the full report or the slide. I'll get the slide deck from the last ATSAP meeting out to the TAC.
Jeff, go ahead. Yeah, I didn't realize there was 2 meetings on the 2nd in town. Ruth, do you mind? I know about the afternoon, but I don't know that I knew about the morning.
Yeah, so I believe the meeting at 1 p.m. or it's either 1 or 1:30 is going to be the stakeholder engagement. And then the meeting at 5 or 5:30 will be the public meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, do you have any questions for Ruth? Thank you very much. And our chairman, Chair McNulty, she has arrived. So do you want to take over? Or do you want me to keep going?
Why don't you keep going
Okay.
until, yeah,
Okay.
I just got us recording.
Sounds good. Let me know when you want to take over. And if you don't ever want to, that's fine too.
You're doing such a good job.
All right, so that concludes item number 1 under general business. Going to item number 2, draft fiscal year 2025 budget. Kate, do you want to do that presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, members of the TAC. We've been working on our budget over at Metro Plan. We have a more expedited budget process, I think, than many of our partners do. Bring a draft to you this month and then a proposal for the TAC to recommend a final budget to the board next month. Going through, I'll start with revenue and then I'll talk about expenses. We have 4 categories of expenses, so I'll break each of those down for you. So our projection for FY25 revenue is slightly lower than our FY24 revenue by about 5%. It is 3.6 million in federal funds, and then you can see the match required to draw those federal funds down. So slightly less, but we're being conservative in our estimation of competitive grant awards. And so if we were to receive competitive grants, that would change that. We've been very successful in the past, so that is why there is a bit of a drop. Looking at expenditures, salaries, and employee-related expenses are one of our larger expenses at the organization. We have a 13% proposed increase this year in salaries and employee-related expenses. That includes a 3% annual increase for all employees. That we follow Mountain Line's pay plan since we were technically Mountain Line employees, and that's what Mountain Line is doing with their pay plan this year. Yet we have a 13% increase because this year we only budgeted for the Safe Routes to School coordinator as coming on partway through the year. We believe we're very close to getting approval to hire that position through the Transportation Alternatives award that we received. And so believe that that person would be on for a full year next fiscal year. They haven't been hired yet, so there's a cash savings from FY24. But it is really the 3% raise and then moving the Safe Routes coordinator to the entire fiscal year are the changes in this category. Operations, this is our operating budget in front of you. It's our 3rd largest of the 3 categories. It increases by about $100,000, and that's really directly attributed to putting in $100,000 for our move into the Downtown Connection Center, which is supposed to open in FY25. So this would support the purchase of any needed office equipment for that, signage for the building, those types of things. So it is really a one-time expense. It is a significant increase in the operating budget, but being that it's one time, it is sustainable in the funding that we have. We have found some other savings in this area related to, we did reduce the amount of public outreach we have by about $20,000 to offset some increases we're seeing in both legal services and financial services fees that we're paying.
Hey, it looks like payroll processing expenses twice. Is that supposed to be two separate line items?
No, that is just on there twice. I will delete the bottom.
So it saved you $20,000.
Yeah, thank you, 20,000 right there. Yes, this is why you're our sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that is the, it's a percentage-based fee repaid amount line. It's a percentage of their employees versus our employees, and it goes to support their their HR, their accounting, et cetera, for payroll. Okay, our last two categories are travel and training and projects. Our travel and training budget is another area where we're proposing a significant increase to $30,000 for travel and training. We were at about $18,000. We've added more staff, and we've really found this year that we haven't been able to do some of the even small trips to Phoenix that we wanted to do for advocating for the RTAC bill, et cetera, just because we've been over budget for those items. The amount per person is about $4,000 per person in this new budget. So that does feel reasonable to get people to one conference. Unfortunately, these days is several $1,000s. So while it's a significant increase, we also have more staff and travel is just more expensive. And then on the project side, we have a lot of carry forward of existing projects. We have not been fully invoiced for the downtown mile expenses. We still have some of the transit and decode items that are occurring in other 5305E grants. So that's a lot of what's in that special projects line, as well as our transportation alternatives award that we received. We've also put in here $90,000 for data collection. It is time for us to do our trip diary counts. So that would pay for trip diaries as well as additional traffic counts. And then modeling is a new line item that we've added. We tend to have annual expenses related to the upkeep of the model, but haven't really called them out separately. So we haven't added that in here. And that does increase our projects budget by 24%. So you may be thinking, well, your revenue's down and all of your expenses are up, which is true. However, the last couple of years, we've had a lot of loan funds, so loaning money to future years, which is allowed under the ADOT programs. And so we're just not loaning as much money forward. We're spending more of the money available to us to implement projects. We have a 5-year draft budget, and we're still sustainable over the 5 years in doing that. I think we're just doing a better job of utilizing the resources available to the region to get things done. So with that, a summary slide here shows a pie chart of the 4 different categories. So you can see we still have the vast majority between salaries and benefits and projects, with our operating and travel as a much smaller percentage of the overall pie. And I'm happy to answer any questions. I think we're good, Chair.
Thank you very much. So that concludes item number 2. Item number 3. This one we're going to be looking for a staff recommendation that TAC recommends the board amend the fiscal year 24 and 25 Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP. So this item is consider amendment to the fiscal year 24-25 Unified Planning Work Program. Kate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what is a Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP? It's a required document for us to identify the activities that we will do with the federal funds that we receive. There are required components that are listed on the screen for you. I won't read through them. We do our UPWP in 2-year cycles. So we did a large amendment to the UPWP for fiscal years 24 and 25 last year. But we need to make some changes to the FY25 portion of the UPWP in particular due to the award of of a couple things. One would be the Transportation Alternatives Program funds need to be added into the UPWP. We applied for that with the approval of the TAC and the board and have received the funds. But in order to draw those funds down, they do have to be included. So we'll add those funds in. We also made a switch several months ago. The TAC may remember this, where we moved the payment for Metro Plan's contribution to the downtown mile from the carbon reduction program, to the carbon reduction program from the surface transportation block grant program. So we need to adjust that in the UPWP as well. And then finally, since we were making these other amendments, we decided we might as well include the draft budget that you were just presented so that it is more accurate than the draft budget we submitted last year. The reason we're doing this now instead of waiting until the budget is adopted is we are trying to get the access to those transportation alternatives fund. So have moved this up and are asking for approval sooner rather. That's it.
Any questions for Kate on the UPWP?
Would you only put things once they're funded in here, or would you put like when you've applied for a grant in here?
That is a really good question. In concept, I would not put them in the budget portions until they're awarded, but we can list activities that we hope to do more in a narrative format in the UPWP. So as we draft a new one next year, I think we'll try to be creative in that narrative around the different activities that we want to pursue. And then if we have to make adjustments, can just adjust the budget tables, hopefully.
Yeah, just thinking of the SS4A planning grant you guys just applied for. I don't know if that's in there or maybe you
It
can
is.
come back and amend it again.
Yeah, it's not in, it felt like such a big award that we would just come back and amend it again.
Any other questions? All right, we're looking for a motion for the TAC to recommend to the board to amend the fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25 UPWP.
I move to recommend the board approve the TAC recommend, or the FY 24-25 Unified Planning Work Program.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, sounds like it passed unanimously. Going down to item number 4, consider fiscal year 25. Consider fiscal year 2025 Title VI plan update. Again, we're going to be looking for a recommendation for the TAC to recommend to the board to adopt the fiscal year 25 Title VI plan. That's very choppy. So I'm elaborating on that one for this one.
Mr. Chair and members of the TAC. We have updated our FY 25 Title VI plan, and that was included in your packets. And we wanted to highlight a few things that were updated. There was some minor update this year. Last year was the major overhaul of the Title VI plan. So the Title VI plan is federally mandated, so that's why we do it every year. And some of the updates included this year were new staff that were brought on board this year were added to the plan. Changes in the executive board and management committee membership were noted in that new plan. Also, all of our maps and demographics in the plan were updated. And further, it was noted in review by Member Hollander that her title was incorrect on the original draft. And so in your motion, when you accept that, we would also hope that you would accept the change of title for Member Hollander and have it correct on the report.
Did she verify her name? No.
And Member Hollander's title is Planning Manager.
To verify. Yeah, it's just Anne's full title.
Anne's old title.
Any questions for Karen? Not hearing any. We're looking for a motion today to recommend to the board to adopt the fiscal year 25 Title VI plan. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that to recommend that the board approve the FY 25 Title VI.
With the one noted
With
change.
the one
please.
that change.
I'll second.
All in favor of recommending to the board the adoption of the fiscal year 25 Title VI plan with the one noted change, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That concludes item number 4. Going on to item number 5. Consider vulnerable road users safety plan scope. We're looking for a action on this one as well. So we're looking for a recommendation to the board to approve the vulnerable road users safety action plan scope of work and purpose statement.
Great. Thank you, Chair and members of the TAC. Next up, you already got it. Thanks, Kate. So as mentioned, we are looking for your approval today to move this on to the board. I'm just going to start off with some background and reminders on this SS4A funded project and then walk you through the updates we are proposing to this scope of work. So when we originally applied in 2022, we did submit a high-level draft scope of work as part of the grant application. This scope you had all approved previously, but obviously some things have changed since then in terms of the number of safety-related plans within our region. So this plan is kind of going to consolidate or streamline, I should say, new and those. Oh, my goodness. Those findings from those new plans and the new tools, along with obviously updated data. So the overarching tasks related to the scope remain SS4A compliant, but provide more information on how we're going to, use those existing data sources tools and the direction that we received from our members at the annual advance in February. Next slide, please. And as a reminder, SS4A action plans requirements are essentially leading us to a Vision Zero plan. To be compliant with SS4A, we do need to establish Metro Plan's leadership commitment to reach zero. Next. And I know, when we say eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our roadway, zero, seems like a hard number to reach. That certainly is not going to happen overnight. And, we intend to have this be a living document that also tracks our reach progress moving forward. So here's just a snapshot of Vision Zero in practice and the impacts it has had on these particular communities. Obviously, not all are equal, but we certainly can see within a year reductions in fatalities and serious injuries can be made, and over time, we can reach zero. Next slide. All right, so transitioning into the items we are seeking your approval on today. This is our purpose statement. This came out of the great conversations and feedback we had at the annual advance. I'll read this real quick just so we can go through it. And then the next couple of slides, we'll get into a few more details on how it relates to our partner agencies. So our purpose statement is Metro Plan supports the elimination of traffic fatalities and serious injuries and will adopt a Vision Zero policy as part of the Vulnerable Road User Safety Action. Through this planning project, Metro Plan will identify projects, programs, and policies for each partner agency within the region and will further evaluate Metro Plan's internal policies and future project selection to focus efforts on improving transportation safety for the region. Metro Plan and partners agree that increasing transportation safety in our region is a priority. Metro Plan and partners support the development of a commitment towards zero fatalities and serious injuries along our roadways. The VRU should inform policies for future adoption by jurisdictional partners. Next slide. All right, so delving deeper into this project purpose, we recognize that Metro Plan as the grantee, we need to focus not only on our region, but also on how Metro Plan as an organization is supporting Vision Zero. So there are these listed things that we need to include in our planning process to be compliant. And these also align with our adopted values. Next slide. And secondly, we obviously want to support our partners in the safety planning process to the best of our abilities within this budget. The reason I mention this is that there were requests for very specific detailed tasks to be considered. For example, complete street guidelines, policy updates, engineering code standards, which were really outside of the scope of the work that was submitted with this, with the grant. So I do want to note that, any project recommendations that do come out of this planning effort, our partners will be able to use those. They are eligible for future SS4A implementation grants. Additionally, we are considering this plan to be used as a foundational document for our partners. We have 2 applications in for our region for future SS4A planning grants, one by the county and one by Metro Plan in partnership with the city. Next slide, please. Right, and excuse me. So as mentioned earlier, a lot of new safety plans have been conducted in our region since 2022. So we're looking at consolidating and prioritizing all of these safety plans and their recommendations into the VRU. So at the end of the day, the VRU will be amended into the Regional Transportation Safety Plan. Next. Right, and this is just a quick visual of how we anticipate our partners using the VRU as that foundational document for future safety plans. As mentioned, we're going to consolidate the findings from those other safety plans related to projects, policies, programs, and update the data based on the current data that we have available. And then we intend to not only have that regional focus plan, but then to kind of pull out sections for our partners that they can consider using either as a foundational document or to support your future safety plans as well. Next slide. Thank you. Oh, got ahead of myself. All right. So the scope of work is, this listed here, the elements as required as part of the SS4A grant. And I think these are all pretty standard in the world of safety planning. On the right, I'm just going to really focus on those highlighted areas where tasks have been updated, both on partners' requests and some of the identified shortcomings of the previous safety plans. So I'll just start through here with equity. We really want to put our focus, our outreach focus, to meet community members where they are, specifically targeting people and organizations that we don't typically hear from in our process. So this includes people with disabilities, people who solely rely on other modes of transportation outside of a vehicle, and the homeless. And each of these groups is sure to have, a unique experience that we haven't quite captured yet. Secondly, MetroPlan will be taking a deep dive into our federally required documents. This includes the Regional Transportation Plan, the TIP, the Title VI plan as well, just to name a few, so we can be informed on how to move safety considerations into our plans and recommendations in the future. And as part of the implementation task, we want to take that robust priority list and identify innovative, high impact, low cost transportation safety solutions that can be implemented within a 2 to 5 year time frame. The high impact, low cost implementation framework is highly encouraged by SS4A. And I did not forget the risk assessment. We're going to go into that on the next slide. So here's a visual of what the risk assessment may look like. In this example, they take all of those inputs that are listed on the left, and then this is combined into a risk score for each roadway in the region. Then they can use this to overlay with the high crash corridors and disadvantaged communities to inform priority projects. And while, MetroPlan, we can conduct this a partial or a minimal risk assessment through our model, we are seeking to a consultant. So we'll be releasing an RFP for that. And that scope of work for the potential consultant is also in the packet. And last thing. All right. Well, thank you. Just as a reminder, we are seeking that recommendation from the TAC to the board, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have first.
Any questions from the TAC? Not hearing any?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
So just want to make sure I understand. So it'll be policies, but then also we'll identify some projects. That's like specific, like this intersection. or this-
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And does the grant or does the SS4A identify what low cost means, or like, is it like the cost benefit or?
So what I have learned through the many webinars is they're looking at the demonstration projects that turn into permanent solutions. But also, any lower cost, maybe it's just striping, it's high vis crosswalks, things like that, that can be implemented fairly quickly. That was my impression, but we'll certainly look into that more as we get into more details.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice. All right, now we are looking for a motion from the TAC to recommend to the board approval of the vulnerable road user safety action plan scope of work and purpose statement. Can I get a motion from the TAC?
I move to recommend approval of the vulnerable road users safety action plan scope of work and purpose statement to the board.
Thank you, Chair Mulkey. Any, can I get a second?
This is Jess. I'll second.
Got 2 seconds, perfect. All in favor of recommending to the board for approval of the vulnerable road user safety action plan scope and work and purpose statement, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, that concludes item number 5. Item number 6, I think that concludes all of our motions and recommendations for the day. So everything else will just be for information and discussion only. So item number 6 will be fiscal year 25-29 transportation improvement program. Dave, do you want to give the staff report on that one?
Yes, thank you. So just a quick update. We'll be back before you with a final draft recommendation next month and looking for board adoption in June. Our public comment period is closed. We've received a comment about fare-free transit, which really has little bearing on the tip. We have received the CIP from Coconino County. Thank you. And we have incorporated the projects from ADOT's tentative 5-year construction program. We've also added grant awards and applications, including 5310 year 2 projects or applications, the Protect grant and the city's HSIP grant. I think I need to, I'm making a note. I will make sure we add the SS4A grants that we just discussed for the city and the county. So next slide, please. So we're going to get from the city their CIP after they've had their budget retreat later this week. Got to clean up some ID numbers and maps. And then after adoption, it will be submitted to ADOT. I know that many of your CIPs will not be adopted until perhaps later in June, maybe even after we go to ADOT. And in those cases, where necessary, because sometimes it's the size of the change that matters, we will submit amendments to correct those. So we'll be coming back to you next month, and hopefully you have a draft for your review well ahead of the meeting. So thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions for Dave?
So my question is more about our schedule. So we're now going to be meeting on a monthly basis?
No, so we did move to, we have 4 TAC meetings a year, but they are not evenly spaced.
Okay.
They are scheduled around different things that we want the TAC to weigh on. So you have both April and May, because it's budget, it's UPWP, it's all those things. Then you have a gap, I believe, till September. And then I think January, if I remember correctly. So they're not evenly
Okay.
spaced. They're kind of distributed based on the topics.
Thank
of
you.
interest.
I think I missed that part. I was like, I'm very confused. Thank you.
All right, sorry, yeah, thank you for the question. Any other questions for Dave? Here again, we're gonna move on to item number 7, draft strategic grants plans, or grants plan. Sandra, do you want to give us everything on that one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the TAC. Next slide, please. So we are looking to align our partners' priority projects against federal grant sources. Over the course of the past 6 months, we've met with all of our partners. We have collected all the projects. We built a tool to connect the projects to the grants. We scored the projects and we refined some of the projects in our strategic advance. So next slide, please. So why are we doing this? How did we get here? So because of the IIJA and the VIL, there's been a historic funding of infrastructure projects through the DOT, the FHWA, the FTA, et cetera. And it's a historic investment. And our region has had a lot of success in winning new grants. And so we thought, since we're a small and mighty team, then we really wanted to distribute our efforts and our capacity in a more strategic way to make better applications for more successful grants. Next slide, please. So we have really made strides in winning awards. So we have pursued, so from between 2020 and 2024, we have increased our funding pursuit by 235%. So from 33.5 million to 112.3 million in going after funds. How many have we actually obtained? So in 2020, that amount remained flat. And then in 2024, we have won so far $54.3 million in federal grants. And we have some awards pending. We have a RAISE grant from the city, our SS4A supplemental for this city, metro plan and county. And those total about $22 million. So we really are taking advantage of this law. Next slide, please. Another reason why we're looking to do a strategic grants plan, it really aligns with our mission and our strategic objective to really collaborate, decrease competition, increase collaboration, and really increase our chances of winning these awards. Next slide, please. So I want to highlight that all projects are good projects, but not all projects are great fits for federal grants. So what are the implications of writing a federal grant, right? So out of those 130 projects, we need them, right? They wouldn't be projects if we didn't need to do them, but only a certain few were good projects that fit a federal grant program. So if you want to federalize a project, there are a lot of rules and items that you have to stick to around procurement, around environmental review, around project readiness, and of course match, right? Funds must be matched between 5.7 and 20%. So all the projects are great as projects, but whether or not they're a good fit for federal grants is another story. Next slide, please. So we are asking you, so we're discussing today, but eventually we want our strategic grants plan to be adopted by our board so that we have really clear marching orders in terms of what we're going to apply for in the next 3 years. So that's where the TAC comes into play. We really want you to weigh in on these projects and approve or give us advice on the plan so that we're all on board about what we're going to apply for. Next slide, please. So a note. So all of our partners are really diverse, right? They all have their jurisdictions and their interests. And Mountain Line, I just want to make a note and give a shout out to Mountain Line that they really have their own prioritization process for their capital projects. And we really didn't want to reinvent the wheel. It's a totally different funding source, FTA versus FHWA and DOT. We will absolutely include their chosen projects in the final plan. And we also wanted to highlight that our regional projects certainly overlap with transit, and that's super important. So I didn't want to leave Mountain Line out of the mix. Next slide, please. So now we get into, so Kate and I were reviewing this meeting yesterday and we were, oh wait, I'm like following because I'm blind and I'm like, this is a different slide. So, okay. Please rewind. Okay, so we collected 130 projects and we refined those to 18 projects across 9 discretionary fund sources. So on the right, you have a timeline. So there's 9 sources, right? We'll get more into them further in the presentation. So there's transportation alternatives, safe streets and roads for all, active transportation infrastructure improvement program, and et cetera. So we have a column on when we think the NOFO, notice of funding opportunity, is going to be released and when the application is due. So we really took 130 projects and vetted them all over the region and shrunk them down to 18 projects across 9 sources. Next slide, please. So in your packet, there is a draft plan of each funding source and each project. Now, in this meeting, we're not going to have time to go over every single project against every single grant. But my hope is that of the stakeholders that are here in this TAC meeting, that you can really look at your projects and really anoint, is the amount correct? Is the phase correct, right? Planning versus design versus construction. Is the jurisdiction correct? Is the year correct? So for transportation alternatives, there's a 2, 4, 5 sources. Next slide, please. 5 projects. For SS4A, those are the projects. Next slide, please. I'm whipping through these because we're not gonna, this isn't like a workshop or a work session. This is very overview-ish. So this is active transportation infrastructure improvement program, a couple of projects there. And I'm still collecting some final details from partners because one of the challenges that I wanted to mention is, so our region really borders like Flag proper and has a little bit of Coconino County, right? So for Flagstaff, the city of Flagstaff, there's a lot of projects that could show up in different permutations, right? Like there could be a bikeways bundle, there could be a sidewalk infill bundle, there could be a beacons crossings bundle, depending on what is best fit for grants, right? So ATIP really seeks, it's a connectivity grant that really seeks to connect multimodal facilities either through a spine or a system and a network. So that's why some of these projects have yet to have further refinement because I'm still working with the city, and the city is such a vast institution that I really want to make sure that all the voices are there and that everybody's cool with the nature of the project. So that's why like this NAU one, we have some outstanding questions, and I am following up with my NAU stakeholders on that pedestrian project. Next slide, please. Then there's Protect. There's three in line for Protect. Next slide, please. And then Raise, of course, has 3 projects. And Raise is a really interesting one because all of these federal discretionary grants have like themes that they concentrate on. And Raise is very heavy with the sustainability and the equity piece. And so this draft plan at the end of the day is going to contain a map that has our region, the high injury crash network, because as we've learned today that safety is super important, and then equity, right? Where are these disadvantaged tracks located that make the best fit for the project and the grant? Next slide, please. There's Federal Lands Access Program. So this is also another one that we have some questions on. There's some ADOT projects on there, some county projects, and we have to refine that one a little more. And that one's also connected to another program that's transportation oriented. Some of these are not completely discretionary. They're like the transportation arm of FLAP is somewhat formulaic. And so we still have to do a little bit of more work on that in terms of best fit for projects. Next slide, please. And then of course there's infra, mega, and rural. Those are really big grants, and the overarching theme for those 3 grants is like really complicated infrastructure projects that no one else will fund. So those are the 2 projects on there. So what are the next steps? So we want to finalize. So in your packet, there's the draft plan, and I am going to be following up with all of our partners to finalize the projects against the grants so that we have a clear final draft of the plan so that we know what we're applying for, and then like let the fund seeking begin. Next slide, please. So I wanted to make a note on Metro Plan's role because really the key, my title is like grants, research, and writing. So I am really with Kate and the rest of my team's help, I'm really a team of 1, right? So how can we help our partners write and seek grants? We can thought partner and we can strategize. Kate is an amazing strategist. I am learning to strategize. A narrative support, so composing grants. So I am a storyteller. I have been a storyteller for 20 years. And so that's my key strength. Editing, collecting support letters and getting that political overlay and advocacy for the grants. For example, we supported the county in writing their Protect grant, and we had we collected a tremendous amount of support letters from the Navajo Department of Transportation, the Hopi Department of Transportation, all of the really important stakeholders that really showed the Department of Transportation that this was a super important project. And then also connecting our partners to resources. For example, some of these federal discretionary grants have crazy BCA guidance. The DOT Benefit Cost Analysis Handbook is over 50 pages and it's really super involved. So we thought, hey, why don't we work with NAU Economic Policy Institute to help with the BCA for Protect? And they did an amazing job and the grant got awarded. Next slide, please. So the process as I see it is that after the final draft is released with the maps and with the blessing of all of our partners that yes, these are the projects that we want to apply for. So once we have that plan in motion, and then we can start applying for grants. And then there's a compliance issue, right? Is it in your CIP? Is it in our TIP? Are all of the boxes checked where we can indeed seek these funds? And then deciding the roles, because as a team of one, I cannot write all of the narratives. I can write maybe like 3 a year, right? So decide, really being clear on who's doing what, and then applying. So that's how I see that. And I'm happy to take any questions.
I don't have any questions. I do have a comment. I've kind of stated this in our strategic advance. It's impressive to see how much grant money Metro Plan has helped bring into the region over the last 4 years. It's impressive. Thank you very much. I know that you've been very helpful with the county in writing grants and applying for grants, and thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Yeah. Welcome. Any questions for Sandra?
Or just a comment, yeah, I appreciate like the process. I think it is something that's been lacking in the region, just having, one place where all the grants are identified, a bit of a strategy and a thought behind it. So just a huge win for the region. I'm curious, I mean, if there's opportunities, if there's certain grants that have a lot of funding in it, like this active transportation grant, and it didn't seem like there was really a clear project. I mean, I don't know, I'm open to brainstorming ideas because it is, I think, a clear type for transit.
Yes.
And same with like the connecting communities, that, there was a huge pot of money and awards that were given out. So I know this is putting together strategic and not these one-off projects, but I don't know, just that there's opportunity to think about these for future years, not for this year, but over future years, just to have a little bit, more of a game plan for some of those other grants.
Thank you for saying that. So part of what's going to be in the strategic grants plan is part of the mapping is going to be like, where are the multimodal opportunities, right? Mm-hmm. Because where are the opportunities for bus stops or greater transit connectivity or things like that. So absolutely, we want to bring that into the fold. So thank you for saying that. Anything else?
Yeah, this is Dave. Just a quick comment. Sandra's put in a lot of really great work on this. And as Stella mentioned, it's, something that we really need. And it's going to continue to be a work in progress. It'll never stop. We're not successful on every grant. And so there will be decisions. Do we submit again next year? And that might have a ripple effect. There's going to be a new authorization bill in just a couple years. That's going to have a ripple effect. So we'll be revisiting this process regularly with you all, but it still is going to help us look forward and plan our work programs in a much more effective way and hopefully result in many more successful grants.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, thank you for saying this process is iterative, and it's also iterative, and the plan really will set a direction. So we are hoping to draw a line in the sand so we can free up our resources. You know what I mean? So the BCA takes a long time. Right-of-way issues take a long time. The environmental review takes a long time. Sometimes obtaining the support letters for the political overlay, you have to really tailor your message. It's really kind of a crafting a story that tells the story of the region, outlines the problem in a compelling way, and demonstrates support and need. And that really takes time. So we think this will free up our resources to write better federal applications. So then your money is freed up over here so you can use your local funds to fund those really important projects that just aren't good fits for grants. Thank you. This segment complete.
All right. Thank you again. All right, moving on to item number 8, ADOT 5-year tentative program and P2P planning to program project selection. Sandra, this one will take you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the TAC. So every year, members have a chance to nominate planning and construction projects that are on ADOT facilities. So they must be on the Arizona State Highway System. They cannot be local roads and they cannot be minor collectors. So every year, projects get recommended and nominated, and then ADOT scores them according to technical elements and policy overlay. And then depending on their score, then they get dropped into a different bucket for public comment, and then they make it into the 5-year construction plan. So what I'm asking of the TAC is please advise any new projects that are not on the subsequent lists that you would like to see funded. There's 3 categories: pavement preservation, modernization, and expansion. And then once projects are scored, open for public comment, then they go to the State Board of Transportation for approval to go into the 5-year construction plan. Next slide, please. So here are a list of nominated and accepted projects in our region that are open for public comment. So this list of projects was in your packet. I won't go over all of them, but I do want to steal a quote from Dave to say that I-40 is the highway du jour. There's a lot of things about I-40. Next slide, please. So the projects that you saw in the previous slide are open for public comment now. People can make public comment at the May 17th State Transportation Board, either in person or virtually. Folks can make public comment on an online portal, and these are hyperlinked in your packet. So if you're like, well, where's the information? It's in your packet, or you can email them through May 24th and go ahead and make your comments about these projects. Next slide, please. So these are projects that are nominated but not included in their draft plan that is open for public comment. So our line of thinking here is let's put everything on there that's connected, that's on the Arizona State Highway System, because why not, right? The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So that's the list of projects. Next slide, please. I won't go over every single one of them.
Real fast.
Yeah.
On the traffic signal at 89 and Burst, ADOT just completed an RSA, and they recommend considering a roundabout at that intersection as well. So I think maybe traffic signal / roundabout.
I will add that. Thank you so much. See, this is why we have a TAC. Thank you so much. Next slide, please. Here are projects that have been nominated but not included, or they're completely brand new. So you can see that there's been a significant amount of public comment on Humphreys because of Flag High and the crossings and kids kind of running willy-nilly like Frogger on Humphreys, and nobody likes that. That's like a safety issue. So please, if you review these lists and if you see a project missing, please let me know and I will put it on the nomination list. I think that's it for P2P. Any questions?
I just want to comment that I know I gave you some this morning that are on there, so thank you. But there are more in the active transportation plan, like all along 66. There's more even on Milton identified, and I think on 180. So, yeah, I don't know if Martin's provided any guidance, but
yes. So you're absolutely right. And one of my workflow items is to comb through the plans and get this on there. So thank you for that reminder. And I will absolutely, the ATRP kind of like my Bible in these things. Yeah. So thank you.
Dave, you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to be clear. So the tentative 5-year construction program is open for public comment now. And the I-40 projects and a couple others there are the ones that are in our region that are in that program, and it is open for public comment. It is possible during this comment period and before the construction program is adopted in June, to advocate for perhaps an additional project to be included. The P2P process that's open now and for which comments are due, I believe, by May 3rd, is for next year's program. This, like everything else in planning, it never stops. So they are already kicking off the P2P process for the next 26 to 30 project or tentative program. So these longer lists that Sandra has presented to you are not in the 25 to 29 plan, but these are the ones that we are suggesting be evaluated by ADOT or requesting ADOT evaluate for next year's program. So hope that clarifies some things if anybody might have been confused. So thank you.
Thanks, Dave. What Dave said is right. Yeah, thank you.
And just to let you know the magnitude of projects, when I was at EDOT, the modernization projects, I think the district had over 275 projects on their modernization P2P list. So there's a lot of projects on the P2P list.
There really are. Like, I printed them out and like hunted the ones in our region down. Yeah.
And there's only a couple modernization projects a year that get awarded. And even less expansion projects.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because at the end of the day, we all have a funding challenge, right? There's not enough money in the AZ general fund, and we're all trying to strategically fund our important infrastructure projects. So, you know, not all projects make it. Thank you.
So I guess what I was trying to say with that is, even if we do put projects in there, don't get your feelings hurt if they don't show up.
Yeah, definitely don't get your feelings hurt. Brace for her feelings. Thank you.
All right, cool. Moving on to item number 9, Safer People campaign. Kim, do you want to give the staff report on that one?
Yes, thank you so much, Chair and members of the TAC. So Safer People, quick background. Metro Plan is working toward Vision Zero. And so with that, Safer People comes into play. And the Federal Highway Administration has a safer systems approach. And that includes safer vehicles, safer speeds. I probably should have put that icon up there, but I didn't, now that I think about it. Safer roads, safer people, and post-crash care. So again, Safer People is on that list. So Metro Plan proposes to spend $80,000 from the carbon reduction program to fund an independent consulting firm to create a branded marketing campaign supporting Vision Zero and the safer systems approach. It also supports the partnership that we have with the city of Flagstaff on the Safer Streets and Roads for All grant. And it'll create a more robust educational effort. So you have a list of potential items that I just decided that I thought they would be great. Now, Kate helps me with this. And also not on this list, but could be included, are some topic considerations that were collected from data from the Regional Transportation Safety Plan. And those would be speed and aggressive driving, impaired and distracted driving, some bike and ped education, nighttime driving, intersections, and lane departure. So all that I'm asking for, we can't have 12. I will say that. So we're going to have to narrow down and come, to a decision whether we want to really educate on the new or existing citywide infrastructure. For example, a roundabout, or maybe a signalized crossing that nobody knows how to use, AKA Blackbird Roost. Sorry, I'm on the bike advisory. Yeah. And, a new protected intersection and maybe separated bikeways, or I don't know, these are just a list of items that we could decide on. We can discuss again. This is just discussion only. Are there any topics that you in your organizations receive complaints about that we could include on the list? What do you wish to see in an educational campaign? There you go. And I'm envisioning video, paper, print, social media. I don't know. What else? What else is there? Buses. Buses. Yes, buses. And just, general marketing. So I know that this is a big list and it's kind of a lot, but if there are any, of course you can, let me know. But if there's anything in specific that you have that you want to really include, and right now, I'll write it down. But I think that's it.
Let me ask this question with the roundabout going in at Fourth and Cedar. Is there any type of educational campaign for the schools around there on how to operate that signal as a pedestrian? And then maybe some of the neighborhoods of flyers, mailing flyers or anything like that?
Yeah, it's something that's been requested. I know the city hasn't started working on anything. I'm not sure if the district has. So that was on my mind as well, if it could fit into that fourth one. How to safely walk and bike to school, specific to MEMS, PDH.
Right.
It's a third school.
I will note, we are also hoping to hire a Safe Routes to School coordinator that can also target some of the specific school items. So I don't know if those are separate or together, but there is opportunity for education within the schools. Yes.
Yeah, I like the idea about educating about the crossings. That has been talked a lot about.
Think
the
I like-
advisory commission.
Yes.
I think it could be from both the pedestrian and the vehicle perspective of kind of how to navigate those pieces. Another idea is how to use the bike boxes on Beaver and.
It's fun to get yelled at when you're in one.
Right. But I think they're just kind of planted there and not everyone knows how to use them.
Yes.
Another idea is there was a campaign of like the Dutch reach, for cars to avoid dooring. So instead of using your left, you look
Yeah.
to see an oncoming bicycle.
You love the Dutch reach?
That's they're claiming it.
Thanks.
Yeah, so just food for thought. I don't have a preference, but just need ideas.
Thank you, Estella. I really appreciate that.
Any other comments or questions for Kim?
Good list.
Moving on from item number 9 to 10, update on Bloomberg Cheshire Slow Street Asphalt Art Project. Is operating for. Can I say that? Okay, cool.
Had class. So,
Unexcusable.
you'll be here in May, I promise. So this is the Slow Street update. I gave a copy of the postcard that went out. It's a mailer that went out to all 930 residents in the Cheshire neighborhood. And so I'm giving you some, it has extra. And so let's see. This is the grant that MetroPlan was awarded. It's the partnership with Creative Flagstaff. And that, oh, there it is. Thank you. Oh, that's the old one. Sorry. I actually gave you the winning design and we had some technical issues. But the star is the winning design. I don't know if any of you voted, but it was the wetlands theme.
Did you? That.
Yeah,
I saw that.
No, you did.
yes.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. It was, and that.
So I don't know
I
if you
love your
know, but
Which one?
yeah, the three designs that were proposed were the wetlands. The middle design was actually given by one of the FALA students. She was the only one that was able to get that large scale concept, applied to the road. And then the third one was the one with the V's. And the Aspen, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, Jeff.
That's the person I voted for.
This is causing a lot of consternation for me.
I know. We had over 480 votes from the community.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the community spoke. And so, yes, the wetlands is they're going in. On your postcard is a QR code if you want to come help us paint. The road will be closed beginning Thursday, May 16th through Saturday, May 18th. The traffic control plans have been approved. Thank you, Joe. And the
Way to go.
permit for the park has been submitted. I do not have an update on that, but fingers crossed. So right now we are just seeking volunteers. The artists are working on art math, which I don't understand art math, but how much paint, how much square footage versus how many coats, all that stuff. Thank goodness for the artists. And we're developing a plan for the block party. We're hoping, we have music. It'll be music and painting and fun, and there may be more from there. We're not sure. It's all budget dependent. So I just wanted to give everyone an update. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but we're really excited on this one. Yes.
If you volunteer to paint, is it like paint by numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
Paint by number.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you have to reproduce that on camera.
Yes.
I would have voted on something different.
And I will note that Creative Flagstaff is a 501c3, so I think you hopefully can use maybe a volunteer hour at your organizations to come. There is a Tuesday and Wednesday option if you really want to really get in there and paint. That's the prep day. Those are prep days. So, thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have any.
Any questions, Tim? Comments? No. Thank you very much. Going from item 10 to 11, Northern Arizona University Master Plan. Dave, you want to give the staff report on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is just repeat, if you will, of a presentation given to the board back, I believe, in December. The university has completed its master plan. I believe there's a link in your staff report to that plan. And this is really showing where we, at least I saw some intersection between their plan and, some of our vision, mission, and work efforts. So you can see this kind of summary statement where they're looking at urbanization and activity centers, travel demand management, focus on pedestrians and sustainability. So there may be some grant opportunities that we would like to collaborate with them on. So next slide, please. They have edge locations that they've identified where they would like to see improvements, improved access, improved aesthetics. Many of these intersect, overlap with city capital projects like the Lone Tree widening, Butler protected intersections, and projects in the ATMP. There's also the Milton Corridor Master Plan that would have some relevance, particularly at university. So there's elements there again that we may be able to collaborate on projects. Next slide, please. There are places where they have vulnerable user conflicts identified. Again, we just spent time talking about the VRU. We spent time talking about safety. And these are the areas of concern that they see on their campus. And so again, maybe an opportunity to collaborate on a grant to address some of these or other projects. Next slide. This is kind of a flow chart, if you will, showing the different processes and where we see, and I've circled those that I think we really have some strong interrelationship. So you can see multimodal recommendations, climate action plan, transportation demand management. So these policies and plan components really intersect with our regional transportation plan, and carbon neutrality has relevance for the TDM planner. Take note of that, TDM planner. And so there are many opportunities for cooperation with NAU in direct relationship to their master plan. Next slide, please. I believe that concludes my presentation. So again, in your staff report, there is a link to the master plan. There's also a list of more specific projects in that plan, and I believe you may have noted one of them in the strategic grant process has potential for a grant application. Any questions?
Questions for Dave? Not seeing any? Good. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Going on to our last item of business here for the day. Item number 12, Metro Plan happenings. Kate, did you want to give?
Yeah, this is just our quick update of other things happening at Metro Plan. The first one we want to highlight is the Protect Award to Coconino County for the flooding on 89. It's very exciting. The map shows awards across the country in that program, and there was one in Arizona. And that was it. Protect funds, resiliency projects for natural hazards. So I'd like to point out that the middle of the country has no natural hazards.
Can't protect.
Sure. Neighborhood access and equity program, white paper. We submitted this in partnership with NAU to expand the crank tool, which there's a little blurb about the crank tool on the bottom. And we did just hear back from the DOT that they're inviting us to apply for the full, I guess, grant research award. So hope, fingers crossed on that, and good luck to NAU in putting that proposal together and the Metro Plan team for supporting NAU in that. AMPO, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, is having a conference in Albuquerque. Our staff are going to take the train out to Albuquerque. It's an exciting multimodal way to get there and attend the AMPO conference. Cheapest way of travel, it's the policy.
Austin did it.
Exciting.
And he got stuck for a couple days. We went over for a dark skies thing. So just have fun.
Well, I am not going to Albuquerque. I'll be going to Miami with some other TAC members here, Michelle, Stella.
One's just smiling really big.
Are you guys going by horse?
We'll be taking a boat to attend the NACDO conference, the National Association of City Transportation Officials. Councilmember Sweet is joining us on that, as is Steph Santana and Lorena Reyes, the new associate planner at Mountain Light. So a full house on that trip, should be fun. We were at Earth Day, if you saw us there, and then we wanted to highlight that Bike Month is coming. Key items, the City Hall ride on May 1st is a kickoff ride. It's really intended for transportation decision makers, so they would love to see you come bike for about half an hour at 7 a.m., I believe, 7 a.m. at City Hall. And then also highlighting Bike to Breakfast, which is probably the best community event of the year in Flagstaff. You can eat breakfast about 15 times on your way. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Kate? Not hearing or seeing anything. That concludes our business for the day. So we'll go into closing business items from the TAC. Anybody have any announcements or anything they'd like to make? Right.
I guess, I don't know if this, maybe just to update this group, we are doing the land availability, suitability and code analysis project. It's a multi-divisionary project that's includes, not just zoning standards, but all development standards, and we're in partnership with Mountain Line. We have just finished up, we're wrapping up the entire land availability suitability study, which really gave us some good information on where to focus our priorities with our code changes. And so I think that's where we're going to start to get way more hot and heavy with where transit is. I mean, they weren't really in the coded barrier or the first diagnosis because we don't really have a lot of code that addresses transit. So that in of itself is the barrier. So we'll be developing concepts, but just want to make you all aware that's happening. And of course, if there's anything that's appropriate to bring for your guys' attention, also happy to do a presentation if you guys think that's worthwhile. So just to know where we're at. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other announcements from the TAC? All right,
Not a major announcement. I'm so sorry. But I just noticed the link I had put in the chat earlier for the registration is expired. So I'm going to just send another one in there, but just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, any other? Dave? Dave?
Yeah, just I wanted to mention the county comprehensive plan open house on April 30th. Bring that to everyone's attention.
Thank you, Dave. Anybody else? All right, not hearing or seeing anything. Move to the next item. Next scheduled technical advisory committee will be May 22nd, 2004. And then we'll adjourn today's meeting at 3 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks.